Welcome to the All Pop No Culture podcast. I am your host this week, Kevin. I am joined again by Andrew. We have a guest this week, Kim. Yeah, and as seemingly usual, Andy has something better to do. I don't know who it is, but he's doing it. And then Pete, I'm going to tell a little story about Pete because I don't like him and he's not here. Pete has missed a couple of weeks for various reasons, but this week he is missing because he just had surgery. And I don't remember if I think it was Wednesday night. We were all, I was sitting here on my couch fiddling with my phone, and I get a text from Pete. Our group gets a text from Pete. And the text, and I'm going to read this to everybody so they understand what we're going through. And the message is from Pete's wife, Christy. It says, "This is Christy, Pete's wife." I just told you that. "I saw you all had texted, and I know he considers you family, so I'll update this nerd herd as he calls you all. Pete is currently in a medically induced coma after some complications during his simple surgery." For the record, it was a hernia surgery. "The surgeon believes he had a reaction to the anesthesia, which caused a stroke, which in turn caused a heart attack and blood clot in his lungs. He'll stay in the ICU down like this for at least 2 to 3 days while they keep him stable and observe. Doctors at this point are hoping for a 65% of a normal recovery based on how long he was down and the damage the stroke and MI caused. I don't know if you all are particularly into prayer. You probably know Pete wasn't, but as he has said, it worked for blowjobs in high school, so fuck it, why not? I know he would appreciate that and any good vibes, energy you have to put out there. I will keep you all up to date with the info I receive. He loves you three so much. Kevin, I'm going to update the other group with some of our other friends in just a few." So this message came in. I literally had my phone in my hand, so I got it the second it came through. And this dick knows that our other friend's wife has gone through surgery of her own. So not focusing on how much of an asshole Pete is, I felt bad. Like I was really genuinely concerned for this useless pile of flubber. And so I texted her back like, "Oh, good thoughts, whatever." And then he sends a picture of his fat ass in a chair, letting us know that it was him and it was a joke. And now I do wish Pete would die. I hate him so much, and he's not here. And I miss him and I hate him. So that is what we've got. So Pete is, he was tentative for tonight. It sounds like he probably, I don't know, fell asleep eating something. And maybe he'll be back next week if he still likes us. But that said, the show must go on. Andrew and I decided that for as much fun as we have together, it would not hurt to add to the party. We thought Andy would show up, but again, fuck him. And we've been talking a long time about having Kim on the show. Now, Kim is friends with everybody but me. I don't have any friends, and that's okay. And you go pretty far back with these guys, yeah?
Yeah, middle school.
Holy shit.
I know.
That's a long time. Like, I wouldn't have pegged you as quite as old as us, but middle school's a long time ago.
Middle school was a long time ago.
Like, I don't remember middle school. That was in the late 1900s. Do you want to say it in a way that makes us sound really old?
One thing I want to jump in though is I think there's something special about the fact that we are all from 95. It's really weird. Like, even though you didn't go to school with us, Kevin, like you are a 95er. So I think that definitely needs to be acknowledged. But yeah, no, we all go back to San Ramon. And I gotta, again, keep it real. Like, I didn't know Kim until, at least we didn't know of each other until I arrived in 9th grade. So freshman year. So they're middle school, I'm freshman year, but either way, it's a high school thing. Way back.
Yeah, I was just down the road. I went to Granada. You guys went to
Cal,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Orange and black. Fight. What were your colors at Granada?
Black and gold.
Oh, that's a cool color. Okay.
Black and gold. Yeah, I think we were at the tail end of still figuring out how to make our mascot not look like an idiot, because we were the Matadors, and some of our mascots looked just bad. I think like right at the end of when I was there, right after I left, got a little better because we had like the Matador in a bull. The mascot was weak. Yeah, I wish we were the Grizzlies. You can't have a bad grizzly bear.
No, you
Grizzly
can't.
bears are
Actually,
dope.
we were pretty dope.
We didn't really have any great
So-
sports games.
Yeah, I thought you guys had pretty decent baseball
Well, maybe.
in right around then, because I played baseball in high school, and I thought you guys were pretty good. I could be wrong. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It's been almost 30 years.
Mm.
30 years ago, we were
Why you
in
gotta
high
blow
school.
for spots like that, man? We all look pretty good. Like we could have said we were from 2010 or some shit.
Well, you said 95. You already
true.
blew the lead.
Fine. Okay, you're right. But yeah, no, it's good to have you on the show, Kim, for sure.
Good to be here.
And
It
it's
is.
a fresh
There-
perspective.
Yeah, there's this is something new. We haven't, Andy has really been the most estrogen we've had on the show. He's our go-to rom-com
Is he
guy.
really?
Yeah. I don't know why, but he likes them a lot. But yeah, so this I told Andrew, but I think in the pre-show last time, but when we first started, we were going to have a girl on the show, and we were a hair too unsavory for her, and some of the things that she needed to have her social media image be, which is fair.
Yeah.
I get that. She was running a business online, and she's trying to get off the ground, and she was her stuff is very family oriented. So there were no hard feelings. And as a matter of fact, there were a lot of times when she was with us when we were recording, she just wasn't on mic, because back in the beginning, we weren't even on camera. We weren't recording video until 50 something episodes in, I think. When COVID hit, COVID kind of drove us into starting to do video because we couldn't be at each other's houses for a while. So, but yeah, so this is the first bit of female on the show. We'll probably invite you back, and you'll say no, thank you, and that'll be that. But for now,
I'm happy to be your bit.
for now, you're here, and hopefully we won't chase you away. So before we get into all the things we've watched, I have almost no prepared interview questions at all for you, but to get to know you a little bit, like, what are 3 shows or movies that you love? Like, just you could say your favorites.
Okay. I didn't realize till I started thinking, like, you didn't ask me this ahead of time, but I was thinking, like, what are my favorite shows? What are my favorite movies? And I realized I lean like real hard British with, and I didn't.
Okay.
I'm looking at my long list of, so favorite show, I have a tie between my favorite shows, Outlander and Sherlock, the BBC Sherlock.
I like Sherlock. Yeah.
So good. Fleabag. Did you guys
Yes.
the
Yes. I love
actress.
Fleabag.
Yes.
love? I don't know why I can't remember her name.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yes.
As a writer. So those are like top 3 favorite movies. Thinking about that, I'm like Shakespeare in Love. It's not really British, but still. And Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
So on the list.
Strong.
And then, gosh, I don't know. I feel like you have to go, genre by genre, but that kind of gives you
All right.
maybe a
So-
small peek.
I'm trying to think. I actually really do enjoy British television a lot. I think in a way they make better shows than we do, because of the way they used to. Their format is what we're doing now, but for a long time they had the single season 6 episode and it's done kind of thing.
Yeah, and the Christmas special, which is always like scary and not Christmassy and 2
Mhm.
hours long. Straight, my kids were trying to watch The British Office, and they're like, "This isn't funny, Mom." They don't go, but they have a Christmas special. I'm like, don't even worry about it. It's not going to be
Yeah.
good. You're gonna like it.
I think for me, like the British show that I really latched on to was Black Mirror. And between, I want to say summer of 2019, I actually watched the entire show. And I was then obsessed with it. I made a top, like, I think it's like 30 or 40 episodes now, like list of like all the episodes. I mean, it was so good, so well done. They had some American like episodes, like, but for the most part, it's a British show. But yeah, I could wax poetic about Black Mirror at any time with anyone. Seriously, I love that show so much.
I didn't think I was gonna like it, and then saw that episode where I think it's like a new dating app that you have a certain amount of time with someone, and then it's fascinating. It's such a cool show.
Yes.
I think I really like British crime dramas for some reason. Like I loved Luther. I think Luther is awesome. Idris Elba is amazing. Luther's fantastic, and the villain in the first couple of scenes, I forget her name now, but she's amazing. I love her. She is spectacularly insane, and she does it well. But I like The Fall with Jamie Dornan and Scully from the X-Files. And then if you swing comedy, she's in a show called Sex Education.
I started
hearing about that show. I need to just get on it.
Amazing. It's so fun. It's so good. Top of the Lake. I think I only watched the first season of that one, but that was the girl from Handmaid's Tale. Whose name I should know. Elizabeth Moss.
Yes.
But British television is where it's at. I think they've, like I said, their storytelling has always been a little different until more recently. So I think we have stolen from them to get our storytelling on track. I think the streaming era, because I think we've talked about on the show before, but you had the old shows like Lost and 24 and all the shows that were literally like 24 episodes long. And then in the past, decade or so, we've kind of tapered off into smaller, more compact, better shows. And even the guys that made Lost have said that if they made Lost today, it would be a completely different show, because they would have made that short 10 episode show instead of a 24. Yeah. So
they tightened it up at the end for me too. I didn't watch. I won't get into Lost.
Wait. So did you watch Lost?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, check this out. So this is great because so Kevin loves Lost, like so
it's my
much
favorite
so,
show.
There you go. So much so that for a while, and we'll probably get back into it, like we were actually watching, it got to a point where I think we were watching, was it 4 episodes or 3 episodes?
Yeah, which I think was too many, but we were doing 4.
But it was getting good. So I think we ended up like in the first part of season 2 before we kind of dropped off. Kevin is like, look, if you didn't get the ending or you didn't like the ending, you weren't paying attention, okay? All I know about Lost, and I'm so glad that after all these years, I still have not been spoiled. Like apparently people have said, Andrew, like, do not do this to yourself. Like, don't, and I've even heard stories of people having Lost parties. Everyone gets together, the ending happens, you could hear a pin drop in the room, and then someone goes, this is bullshit. Like, they're so angry. And I'm like, so yeah. So anyway, obviously no spoilers, obviously. I know you're not going to do that, Kim, but I'd love to at least see you and Kevin, spoiler free, just maybe discourse a little bit about that ending, if it's even possible.
Yeah, I feel like we were all on the edge of our seat thinking like, well, what else could it be? We've been through all these possibilities. What else is going on? And the disappointment after that was like,
see, for me, it ended, and I was like, that was perfect. Like I literally, like for me, I was like, that is exactly what I wanted. But I remember like it was such a big deal that when it ended, there was actually like it was on the news, the 11 o'clock news or whatever it was, like right after the show ended. They were like at people's houses waiting, like they had the before, and they had, because you could tell it was before because it was still light out, and they were talking to people about the finale, and they had people afterwards. And I just remember it really did go both ways. You had people that were like me that were like, "Yep, nailed it," and then there were people that weren't. But yeah, it was.
I mean, there could be a total huge element that a lot of us missed. I feel like it came out when the internet was young, so there'd be maybe information here and there. But I remember thinking like, you'd find out a character name and you'd be like, oh my gosh, this person, I just randomly heard that this name means this, or this comes from this background. And it just seemed like the smartest thing that ever existed.
Yeah. I've called it like basically like the last great water cooler show, right? Like everything that happened, because everybody was watching it by mid first season, that every time something happened, you'd go to work and everybody would be talking about it. Right. And so like everybody, and then you'd wait for that next week because nothing dropped all at once. You'd have to wait a week, everybody talk about it. And the only show that to me that really did that since was the first season of Westworld.
Yeah.
Because that one was crazy. Like you were trying to, because that one had 3 timelines, I think. Like it was hard to follow in a good way. And I think that one kept people talking too.
Not Game of Thrones, you would say?
What's that?
Not Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, I think Game of Thrones as well. For me, it was. But
Game of Thrones was less of a mystery. Like Game of Thrones felt pretty like it was going down a path. You could try and figure out like who was going to do what, but it wasn't like, I wonder, who the dragons are. Rather, the dragons were just the dragons, right? Like, but you had your moments. Like everybody talked about the first time that Daenerys walked out of the fire. The red wedding, it had those moments that everybody was talking about for sure.
Then I guess there are people who read the book, so they already knew that wasn't as
that's the other thing too. Yeah, Westworld was based on a movie, which I think was based on a book, if I'm not mistaken. But there was a '70s movie, but I think this one was enough of a departure that people that had watched that movie didn't know what was coming in this one. I think. That one was a mystery. Whereas Game of Thrones, there were a lot of people that were like, "Oh, I knew that was coming." I'm like, "Well, why don't you shut up and let me watch it?" Because I haven't read the books that aren't even finished.
No.
And then it had arguably one of the worst last seasons of.
Oh yeah.
Like in television history.
They rushed it.
Yes, it should have been 2 or 3 seasons instead of 1.
And so unsatisfying. Like. As far as like Jon Snow, like really, like that's, we're even killing what's her name. That's what I think you're gonna notice about me. I'm the worst with fucking names. But the sister, oh my god, the Lannister sister who became queen or whatever. Cersei's death was way too easy. Like, there's just so many things that are just kind of lame. I just felt like this show kind of lost its edge. Like it used to be way more bloodthirsty. Like remember when Homeboy was fighting the Mountain, and then he's like Ilya Martell. Like I legitimately there's 2 mountain scenes that made me legitimately go like sit up and like rewind and watch that shit again. The first time was when the Mountain cut off the horse's head, like after the jousting. I was like, what the fuck was that shit? And the second time when it's like you were monologuing, dude, like what the fuck? He just like grabs his head like.
Yeah, and just crushes the living shit out of him.
I still haven't seen that part. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. But anyway, but by season 7, they just like totally calmed down. Oh, and then even like the Night King, like really like all that build up, and then just like he just went out like that, like in like. Anyways, it was something near the end where I think they had a lot of great ideas, because I had no problem with Arya killing him, and I actually even loved the way she did it. Yeah, it's the whole dropping the night. Yeah.
It was just like they're like, cool, we're done with that guy, so let's just write him out, right? And so it just kind of happened, and then HBO wanted them to go for a while, and they turned it down and said we'd rather end the show. And I don't know why HBO didn't just say, hey, why don't you guys go and we'll hire somebody to finish that? Because rushing it just made no sense, and the last season doesn't work. It's everything that happened is reasonable with time. Like I think
it wasn't earned. You got to earn that shit.
Exactly. Like Daenerys going crazy,
Yeah.
totally
it
possible
felt-
because
yes,
that was
all
her
it should happen.
bloodline. Like
Yeah.
it happened to everybody in her
Mad
bloodline
King,
too.
yep.
Like so, but then they were just like, yeah, she's crazy now. Like, what are you gonna do? They're like women, right?
Since last
You know,
episode.
like it's just yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the like the last episode is just like her at the camera, like over her shoulder. You know, like, it's like what
My
the
bad.
yeah. Sorry guys, I'm not me when I haven't had a Snickers. You know, it's just it was so bad.
There was even a Starbucks cup, I think, in one of the episodes.
Yep.
They edited it out, but that shows
Yep.
you how
There was two moments like that in the last season. There was the Starbucks cup, and there was something else that they edited out afterwards. And then there was the episode that was so dark that you couldn't see it.
yes.
And they're like, "Yeah, we wanted it to be dark." I'm like, "You didn't want it to be that
Yeah.
dark. Don't lie to me." And it's such a bummer because, like, really, every season before that, maybe the one before it was falling off a little bit,
Yeah,
but every season before that was so good. Like, it was the best show on television.
it was.
Yeah.
It was it was my former number one.
Yeah.
Until last season.
And it shot itself in the ass.
Can I ask you, since you
So-
brought it up really quickly, just a kind of yes or no thing? Have you guys seen Handmaid's Tale?
Not the
Wow.
last season and a half, I think.
No, I'm not going to go there.
No. That's not even a
yeah.
bad thing. It's just like, for me, I'll just say it. So basically, I've known about it, and I can't believe we're going there, but we're going to go there. So ever since that, Supreme Court situation, that
Yeah.
was the first time that I went, okay, now I think I want to watch this show, because I always thought of it as like, again, I get a bit sociological, right? So like we had this before, like we had this during slavery, like literally, if you see like a light-skinned Black person, that was probably, a slave master rape. Just keep it real, okay? So that happened. But, I was like, okay, it's 2020, and I think Handmaid's Tale is supposed to be like near future, I think. But either way, it's like, this can't happen, like this is like, but I get it, but I'm not in the target audience, but I get it, I'm glad the show's doing well. The decision happens, and now I'm like, okay, now this show feels more relevant than ever. So that said, take it away. Like, talk to us about the show if you watched it.
Have you seen it, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm probably a season to a season and a half behind, but I definitely watched it religiously when it was first out. I love Elizabeth Moss. I always had a bit of a crush on, blonde, angry, rich lady. She was on Chuck. What's her name?
I don't know her name.
She's got a really cool Yvonne Strahovski. She's but she's the wife of the guy that originally kind of owned Offred. And so I've always liked her a lot. Like, she was great on Chuck. And like I like the cast, like Ray Fiennes is good. I hate him, but he's good.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's a good actor.
Yeah, like it was a brilliantly made show. Like it's fantastic.
I had to stop watching it. Maybe season, I don't know what season, a few seasons in, because I would get so angry.
Yep.
Because they do such a good job of making you feel like this could happen. There's no way out. Anything you can think of, any solution, they've thought of it first. You are in control, and you're you're screwed.
And like, they've got, it's that thing too, where you see it in today's politics, not to get political, but like there's women doing this to the women, and you're like, how are you okay with like just destroying like other people? Like, it's crazy. And it's all, so the story behind it, actually, Andrew, since you haven't watched it, is it's about genetics too. Like, so the part of the problem is that women, generally speaking, can't have children anymore. Like, a lot of them can't. And so the reason that you have the handmaids is, and the reason they essentially become slaves and all that, is because they can. So the rich people get themselves a handmaid, and they have to live this because they can have a baby, whereas their wives cannot.
That happened in the Bible, though, didn't it? Like, I want to say it was like Elizabeth or something, or Ray. I know in the Old Testament.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that was normal. So again, I feel like you know, maybe part of what makes the show so powerful is because it's actually based in human history. Like this shit happened.
And
So
I
anyway,
think
okay. So what did something happen like where a lot of people lost the ability to, I should say people, women, women lost the ability to have babies, and then all of a sudden only a few people could, and they just enslaved them? Like what, just educate me. And I love that we're going to be able to say Handmaid's Tale, so it's not the same old stuff
Right.
on the description of the show. We're going to get way more. Woohoo, thank you, Kim. No, it was all part of the master plan. No, go.
well, I actually didn't even watch season 1. I jumped in when my ex was starting season 2. So I watched from there, and he's like, you're lucky you didn't watch season 1. It was so hard to watch. So I don't know the beginning. So Kevin might be able
Yeah,
to.
well, I don't remember what it is, but it's essentially that it is the U.S. and it's not all of the U.S. I don't think that makes up this government that they have. I think it's most of the U.S. Canada is still free. Other places are still free, but this is the U.S. and they get into the politics in season 2 or 3, a little more of it.
Okay.
But I don't remember, to be honest. I know at one point one of the girls gets kicked out and she's in some sort of like slave mining camp almost. And so there's this implication that something shitty happened, like there was a war of some kind that, excuse me, that led them to to be able to kind of overthrow and do this psychotic thing that they're doing. But I don't remember if it was like a nuclear war, because I don't think, it's not really like, it doesn't feel post-apocalyptic most of the time, for as twisted as it is. Like, you know, everybody has a normal car, everybody has a normal house, we have electricity, you know, you got all this stuff. And I know it is, I think it's technically post-apocalyptic, right? Because something did happen and it's vastly changed the landscape. But yeah, but I don't remember anymore, to be honest. Like I know, you know, I know what I just said, and that's about all I know. But it's dark. You know, it is a bleak show.
Speaking of bleak shows, I'm trying to remember. Yes, The Man in the High Castle. That was a show that was holy fucking shit bleak. I didn't finish season 4.
So good though.
I might have to go back, but Kim, if you have not seen it.
I remember wanting to see it, and then I don't know why I didn't. Is that based on a book?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yes, it's based on a book. I don't know if it follows the book, but the whole premise is, I think you may know, it's an alternate history. The Nazis won. So it basically
and
follows,
Japan. And Japan.
And Japan. So Japan basically has like the West Coast, and Germany has like the East Coast. And I think parts of the Midwest are considered kind of like the free zone. But it's like, yo, like, especially season 1, or the whole damn show, but really season 1, anything that can go wrong, yeah, it goes wrong. Like, it goes way wrong. Like, they're not gonna kill the fucking kids. Yeah, they kill kids. Like, it's like no one is spared. Like, I legit finished this show, like, glad that we live in this world now, and like, I left with an icky feeling. So I'm prepared for Handmaids.
It ends in a good place, but I remember finishing it, and I don't anymore remember why, because it's been a year or two now. But I really wish I had stopped watching maybe like 10 minutes earlier. Like the ending just goes a little too far. So I would definitely say watch the whole thing, because I'd be curious to see what your take is. But I just remember feeling like they just went just a hair too far. Like it was almost a perfect ending.
I like John Smith, even though he was.
That's Rufus Sewell, right?
Yeah, Rufus Sewell's amazing. He's if you've ever seen the movie, oh God, it was one of the movies that inspired The Matrix. Dark City. Are you familiar?
Love Dark City.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Awesome. I love
so
you guys.
Good.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, that actor is so good. Film noir. I still think of Pismo Beach to this day because of that damn movie. Anyway, but that actor, he basically plays like an American who basically switches over, of course, because the Nazis won. So he's now this like high-ranking Nazi official, and it's like, it's weird to like actually identify with this character, but like you do, and that makes you it's weird. It's fucking weird. Like at least for me, it was weird. You know, but he's amoral, I feel like, in the show, at least as far as I got. Like he wasn't full on evil, but he also wasn't about like, oh yeah, no, this is bad. Like he's like, no, for the Fuhrer. Like he was for it. So it was a trip.
That's
Yeah, I
impressive.
mean, when you get into it, like later, especially, like it is because of his family, right? Like he had a family, and so the choice was you fight back and die, or you roll over, join up, and save your family. And so he did, and he gave his family like the best life he could. And so, yeah, it's a shitty choice to have to make, and I'm glad I don't have to.
Exactly.
You know, don't get me wrong. I've got, I'm learning Russian on Duolingo just in case, but you got to be prepared. But yeah, it's a really good show. I really like that one. I forget who plays like the Japanese
I know, I love
guy
that
too. I really like
was in
him.
Mortal Kombat, dude. So it's crazy how the bad guy in Mortal Kombat is like this older kind of like, grandfatherly dude who has a certain power. I gotta say it, like he can jump dimensions and say it. Like that is so cool. So yeah. I highly recommend at least season 1. And then what's his name? That skinny guy who was he's in Lost in that one episode. You know what I'm talking about? That skinny kind of goofy looking dude. He was in Road Trip. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
DJ Qualls. DJ Qualls.
Yeah, DJ Qualls.
DJ Qualls is in
love DJ Qualls.
The first 2 seasons as well. He's great.
I think he's in all of them.
I thought if you
maybe not.
Yeah, maybe I thought he
goes fishing in the Pacific and doesn't come back.
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really good show.
Yeah.
But we did tangent amazingly. Like we don't usually do that, but we were trying to get to know Kim.
We are getting to know Kim.
Yeah,
and took us dark into like dark show. This is fucking awesome.
And so, Andrew brought this up before we started recording, but on a more personal note, Kim used to study screenwriting, so she is far more intelligent than the rest of us. And so, like, tell us a little bit about what it's like to go to school for screenwriting, even if you're not doing it now. Like, what was that journey?
And what inspired you too? What was the seed that was planted that said, I want to do this for a living?
I wish I could remember the movie, but I remember telling my parents, like, I think instead of a teacher, I want to be a director because I want to make people feel things. And I feel like at the time they were watching like Seinfeld or something, and then they started laughing, and I'm like, are they laughing at Seinfeld or are they laughing at me? And then they're like, okay, if that's what you want to do it. I had some teachers that really phoned it in there that were like, oh, this is great. And then we had teachers that were really harsh on you and called in. I remember one teacher called in like I don't know what he was, someone from Hollywood, and we were all nervous and we're these students, and he's like just talking shit about all of our scripts. And we just all said after, well, that's what we have to be used to, right? Like it's going to be awful out there. I had this script I was working on for so long about, I can't even remember it anymore, but there was like some cannibalism involved. It was like a suppressed memory that just came back up, like, who am I? And I remember talking to, one of the people, the upper kind of admin people, and he said, they already made that movie with the plane crash and the cannibalism. And I thought, well, it's different. Can there only ever be one cannibalistic movie? So maybe in hindsight, it's like a really good thing that I didn't follow that path. But I was saying kind of earlier, I really thought at first, like I was going to get into action and adventure, and I liked comedy, and I loved the Farrelly brothers were my jam. I just thought they were hilarious. And I think I didn't know at all who I was, because those are all so different than what, I bring to the table. But I had teachers who worked on things that were on TV or that you could rent in video back then. And it was a really cool experience just to be around like-minded people and see every artsy film there is. we were talking a little bit earlier too about how it kind of ruins movies for you for a while, where you can kind of predict everything to, you know, to the minute, like here's where he's going to have a challenge and maybe like some kind of mentor is going to have to step in. But I feel like I'm so far past that now. Everything just amuses me and I'm happy that that I got to that place. But I still would love to, like, I think if I had a clone of me, I would love to go write for TV, like for comedy, situational comedy. I think would be a blast. So
yeah, I've always found that comedy, I think, is the hardest thing to write. I think you can be a little funny, like you can crack a joke, you can make people laugh, you can do all that, but like there's a special kind of brilliance in like writing really, really, really good comedy. It's a talent that like I don't have. I do some writing. I told Andrew last week, you know, I wrote a pilot script a couple of years ago, just to see if I could do it. Like I don't have the education in doing that. My education came from the wealth of knowledge that is the internet and downloading a bunch of scripts and reading through them and effectively, you know, copying a lot of the things that I saw in there as far as structure and things like that. I've written like stories before, like I've always done that. But like I can write a little bit of humor, but I can't fathom what it takes to write like Deadpool, like just to like go out and just write all of like comedy over and over and over and over. Like it's funny the whole time. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. I wish I did, because I love that stuff, but I just know I couldn't write it. Like maybe on a TV show, like I said, because I feel like in a writer's room, you're bouncing ideas, responding to things, reacting. But if it's just you sitting there, a pencil and paper at a desk,
yeah,
I don't know.
You know, a couple things. Yeah, a couple things. Like you guys know. So this is about me. I might like lose points with Kim now, but like of everybody in like the whole crew, like here, I'm really not the comedy guy. So like I'm not really into them at all. And I haven't even seen like, I know Andrew was giving me shit for not seeing that.
Elf.
Yeah.
Like, well, you deserve shit for not seeing it.
Well, I haven't seen Elf, right? But I have seen The Good Place, and that is a sitcom that I love. And I think that's brilliant. What I was going to say though was I'm a bit of a control freak, so if I wrote a script, I would literally want to be on set. Well, I want to find out who was saying my lines, okay? Because I want this shit delivered right. And if you can even deliver it better than I wrote it, awesome. But if you fuck up my fucking like lines, like you don't do a good job, I'm pissed. And apparently writers like that, it's a bit of a powerless situation, because you can have your whole thing just changed up by the director or whatever. So that's got to be really, you know, so I know that even if I had that kind of ability, it would be tough, because you know, I would lose that control. And I was also thinking like, you know, I'm big on like neurodiversity. I really do think that not all brains are wired the same. So some people legitimately just have that comedy brain. And it's a genius thing, you know, and so other people have other genres. So, you know, not to blow up your spot, but I'll blow up your spot a bit, Kim. Like I've definitely like, thanks to Facebook, okay? People knock Facebook. I'm gonna like not tangent, but I was totally gonna go on a diatribe on defending social media. But the beauty of Facebook is that you actually, I think, get to see different sides of people that you wouldn't see just in like, you know, face to face. So for years, I have observed you make comments that are effing hilarious, like hilarious to the point, and you know this, I've actually hit you up like, yo, like you're funny. Like, have you thought about stand-up? Like, have you? So I feel like you have that kind of like brain where you're probably thinking some random ass shit that you could destroy someone. You probably like just, and you're a nice person, but you probably are thinking funny shit, but you just like hold it back or like think, should I deploy this? Should I not deploy this? You know, and I think that's great. So imagining you in a writer's room, like Kevin said, where everyone's just like practically giggling the whole time. Magic. It's like, I'm sure it's like alchemy, you know, like where it's like 1 + 1 = 3 type shit. So anyway, I just admire that, because I just know I don't have it. for those reasons, like my brain's not wired that way. I'm not a comedy person, and I wouldn't trust the actors to like deliver my lines. But for those who can, like Kevin said, I mean, that's awesome. So you want to do sitcoms, or you would do sitcoms if you had a clone.
I would, yeah. Maybe maybe after my kids are in college, I could be whoever I want to be again. I can start over again, but
Well,
not really.
and that's the crazy thing too. Like looking into this and having written a script and really reading. There's a guy. There's like a screenwriting. There's a ton of groups, but there's a screenwriting group on Facebook that's really good. Guy's name is Bob. I can't remember his name, but he wrote a book called "That's Not the Way It Works." And what's really great about it is it's not about how to write a script, right? There's a million of those books out there. Save the Cat. There's a few of them that are what you read if you're going to start writing. But what it is about the business. And the simple fact is that if you write a script and especially if you haven't before, you have to be prepared to take whatever money they give you, hand that over, and either basically never expect to see what you put on paper ever. Yeah. Because if it's a movie, it will go through rewrites. Yeah. And as soon as you sell it, you have no input on it anymore. Oh. It can go through a dozen rewrites with a dozen different people. Probably won't, because that's them spending money and slowly losing that money. And then it has to go to production. If it goes to production, then it has to get made. Then the director gets involved. All these things, like you could write what you think is the most brilliant script. If you don't get the right things in your contract, which are very hard to get if you're nobody, it just goes and you may not even show up in the credits for the movie, right? You get your money and that's it. You're done.
Could you imagine you want to tell all your friends, like, I wrote the original. Your name's not even there.
Yeah. Or to sit there, like to be excited to see your movie come down, sit down to watch it because you were never allowed on set. Most writers are not allowed on set. Yeah. You sit down and you're like, I had 4 words. 4 of those words were mine. Like it's crazy. Like it, and you just gotta, and the people that make the most money are the people that crank out scripts. You get your $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for a script, and then you move on to the next one. And you just go and go and go. You don't worry about if it gets produced. You don't worry about if your name's on it. You just do your best. And that's why I do think like some of the most fun, I think where I would like to be is in a writer's room. I would want to do like sci-fi drama. That's like my thing. And I think that'd be awesome. Like I think it'd be super cool, but I like the interaction of that because when a season goes on, somebody gets credited for different episodes. Like if you kind of take the lead in an episode, you'll get credit for that. Because I mean, I think that's part of it. Like I think if I was writing, I would want somebody to see my name in the credits at some point, like at the front, right? Yeah. Like just once, just be like, this is mine. And I think that's cool.
I'm trying to think of a sci-fi movie I just watched. Is it Elysium?
Oh yeah.
Is that the one with
what?
With who?
Jodie Foster, right? Where it's like is it Matt Damon and Jodie Foster, I think?
Yeah, and Jodie Foster was the worst actor. Like she was the worst actor in the movie, which is like really funny to think about Jodie Foster. Sean was explaining it to me and I was thinking like talking along the lines of like different brains working in different ways. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, was this a book first? How could somebody think of like just some of the science fiction stuff is so beyond me and it's so fascinating. Like, how did you even come up with that concept?
Oh yeah, it's eugenics, man. Like, oh yeah, like all that shit. It's very historical. They even had a thing called phrenology. I posted something about it. Basically, there was a pseudoscience that talked about people's head shapes, and your head shape determined your fucking personality. Kim, we are fucked up, like as humans. Like, and that's the beauty of science fiction, because basically all these like topics that are just so like just messed up, right? It's literally toxic radioactive subjects, but you're able to then kind of cover them up in fantastic allegory or metaphor. So it's no longer about, black and white or whatever. It's alien and human, or like whatever, or like it's not the US and the Russians, it's the Federation and the Klingons. Like that's what they did, you know, and then basically the people who can read into it can kind of, it just makes everything easier to like consider without being triggered. So Elysium is totally, yes, about that. And man, I could talk for days about Elysium. Yeah, no, it's a very classism type film, where, as you know, Earth is like where all like the poor people live, and like, you know, and Elysium is where all the rich people live, and it's like there's no death, and fuck it, I'll just say it. I said, if that happens, I'm going to Elysium. Sorry. Like, I'll be there. I'm not making any apologies. Like, because at the end of the day, I can only control the controllables, and the only person I can control is me. So, you know, if I see the world turning into Elysium and Earth, I'm getting my ass to Elysium.
Get on a ship.
And then I'll do what I can from Elysium. Okay. But you know, I'm not like the big, strong dude who can like start a revolution. No, let me use the power of the pen, not the power of my fist. You know, get in where you fit in. But I love that you just said that. That's so cool. Like that, because that is so what I'm into. I'm into things that make me think beyond my immediate experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that actually makes me think back of Handmaid's Tale, because I was thinking, okay, Elysium, what if you have a kid who goes off there, one kid there, one kid on Earth? As a parent, what do you do? What do you want to do?
Grab the kid from Earth. You know,
but can you, like,
family first, man. John Smith. Like, I know what you're saying, but it's like John Smith, like in what's it called? Man in High Castle. Family first, always. So that's the way I look at it. Family first.
That's
whatever
the
it
big
takes.
struggle in Handmaid's Tale is she has a daughter who's in Canada without her.
But in the beginning, she's not even in Canada. Or doesn't she have to get her out first?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because her daughter is born into this world, like this messed up stuff, and she's going to an academy because I think she's too young to know if she's potentially fertile. But like if she is, then her daughter's going to have the exact same life she just had, right?
And
so
women are like giving birth to babies that they've become attached to, and it's just this constant, like, you're just a cow pumping out calves, you know, and looking at like, oh, just the pain of that.
Yeah, because like in real life, there are women that are totally okay with being surrogates. Like they carry a baby for 9 months, they hand it off to somebody. That's the choice they made. And even some of those women that make that choice and do that actually still struggle afterwards, because they went through this thing for 9 months. Like it can't just be like, cool, you know, like I expect it. And these women have no choice. They go through it. They do all the work. And there's one girl, especially, I think she's in the first season. She's in all the seasons, but especially in the first season, she's not particularly strong or stable. So when she goes through it, I mean, she loses it. Like she goes off her rocker, because what do you expect? Like you're not, you know, you're not treating her right. You know, you're not taking care. Like they pretend like they take care of her when they're pregnant, like because their job is to get pregnant. So until they're pregnant, they just kind of get the shit in. When they get pregnant, all of a sudden they get babied, right? Because they're carrying the child and they're doing all this stuff. And then as soon as that baby's born, they're like, yeah, get back in the shit of it. Yeah. You're no good to us for like 6 months. So go, you know, whatever. Yeah, it's messed up.
You feel human, right? And then you have this huge human connection that's like biologically affecting you. You have it, and then it's ripped away, and it's back into, you know, this desperate situation.
Yeah, and on top of that, actually, I got that wrong. They actually do have to stick around for a while after the baby's born, to breastfeed and do all these things that
are going to further the bond.
Right, yeah. and then take them away. Like it's messed up. So on that
Andrew,
fun note, go ahead.
No, like, what would you write, Andrew? I feel like I have kind of an idea, but I couldn't sum it up. It's got to be like.
No, it's funny. You bring that up, because we talked about this, and Kevin, I totally have Sarah literally on my other computer right now. It's going to get read, I promise. With me, it's always a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
In anything. So I actually had this like this post-apocalyptic, of course, I'll even say the name, I don't care, series called Rubicon. And basically, it takes place in like 2042. There's been a crazy war, and after the war was done, it's a new society that is totally like stratified. I call it, it's an ergotocracy. So basically everything, the national anthem is called Everything by Design. So it's like there is no more homelessness or anything because everyone is kind of like put in the slot that they're supposed to be. So no one feels useless. There's no more square pegs and round holes. It's perfection. And basically the thesis is ultimately, and I've said this jokingly too, but I kind of not joking, 99.9% of dictators ruin it for the 0.1% who would do a good job. Okay. But the problem is,
I know. That was just unexpected.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. But the problem is this 0.1% person who actually stabilizes the world realizes I have no successor. And I basically have just put the entire world in the hands of evil. Like I set this up for them and I'm just going to hand it off, and I've just doomed everyone. So the person's dilemma, of course, is to like realize like I fucked up. And of course the person dies, and then bad shit ensues. And then it's about this whole, there's characters, there's a prequel, and there's an epilogue. So, and I definitely want to explore sociological themes, but ultimately it was about, just trying to make society better, because I went through this period in 2000. Thank you guys for letting me talk. Between 2002 and 2004, I definitely went through kind of a weird period where I was just like worried about so many things that I couldn't control. And all it was doing was making me feel worse and worse and worse. So that's why I'm so big on controlling my emotions and only focusing on what I can't control. And if I can influence something, great. Anyway, so I figured the best way to like actually condition society in some way is through storytelling, because the earliest things that we even get as kids, like as babies, tell me a story. We love being told narratives. We love being told stories. So I wanted to actually make my stamp on the world through this. So when I saw like movies like The Maze Runner, or not Maze Runner, oh God, the one the Wachowskis made with like the guy with the mask. You know what I'm talking about, Kevin? Shit. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. The whole time I was like, okay, I've had this idea again, Kim, since 2005. Okay, so every time a new movie comes out that's around, like this, I'm like pissed because like someone's gonna take my fucking idea, But now if they do, like I'll be on my piece with it, right? But it still hasn't been done. So I might just
No, I think it's fascinating, and especially
Yeah.
from the viewpoint of the dictator at first, of like, oh shit, what did I do? I just set up this ideal situation. It turns out it's not ideal.
Correct.
And there's this book out there called Big Magic, where they're talking about, or she's talking about, I can't remember the author's name, how whatever, something that you're thinking, something that's in creation, you really feel like you have to make, it's already out there. Not saying it's like it's been done or whatever. Other people are thinking it, feeling it too. There's some type of wavelength.
Yes.
So that's out there, and but your point of view is never going to be the same as theirs. So even if you see something so like it, I think that's totally worth pursuing. I love it.
Well, that I think that's part of what we're even doing here on this show. And this is like anyone who's listening, like you're just seeing some like cool alchemy happen right now, because like Kevin's creative, Kim's creative, I'm creative, Pete's creative. Like we're all just vibing, man. Like you're just seeing us workshop and jam. So we'll see. Thank you for the inspiration.
Well, it's funny. You both said something about, either seeing or not seeing, something that you've already written being done. Like you had the cannibalism story, and somebody said, well, that's already been done. But just this last year, the show Yellow Jackets came out on Showtime, I think it is.
Yeah.
And that show is brilliant. And it's about a team, a girls' high school soccer team that crashes in, I think they crash in Canada. And they have to survive, right? So they do what they do, but the premise of the story is actually they survive. And so the accident happened, but a lot of the story being told is them as adults thinking about what they've done, and there's this question of, okay, was there a little supernatural element to this? Like what happened while they were out there and nobody knows? So you're kind of getting the story through this jumbled lens as they work towards the end of the season. But the thing is that any story, they say there's no original stories anymore. Like every story has already been told. So the question is, can you tell your story in a way that's still interesting and entertaining? That's all that matters. Yeah. As a matter of fact, like to tangent off of that, they are making a movie right now called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yes. Yes.
Because this year, Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody can make a Winnie the Pooh movie or story. It can be a direct adaptation of A.A. Milne's books if they want, but they can do anything they want with the character. Winnie the Pooh is now owned by everyone. And so this person was like, fuck it, I'm going to make a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. So the idea is Christopher Robin goes to college, leaves them behind. They have been neglected. Pooh and Piglet eat Eeyore. That drives them insane. And then they go on a killing spree to find Christopher Robin and kill him for leaving them behind. Like that's batshit crazy. But it's okay.
Oh
It's public domain. They can do whatever they want. And so the only thing they can't do is their characters cannot look like the Disney characters. You can't make them look like the existing ones. So it's a very live action, and they have a very
creepy.
It's a very creepy looking film. And it's being made, like it's legit being filmed right now. So again, just tell your story in your own way and hope people love it. That's all you can do.
So Divergent is one of the Divergent series is one of the ones that's like getting pretty close. Like I didn't like it because even like Chicago was like the base, I guess, and like Chicago was gonna be my base, so fuck those guys. No, but then also the one that I was thinking about was V for Vendetta. So when that movie came out, I was scared too. But when I saw it, I was like, okay, no, this isn't it.
Well, when I was in high school, I had the idea for a book, story, movie, whatever, about like somebody that takes prison inmates, releases them into an island, and like rich people get to hunt them, basically. Right? Well, they made this film. Like I remember seeing the trailer for it, and this was like 15 years after I thought of it. Never wrote it down. Like nobody stole my idea or whatever. But I was like, that was my story. I was like, that was totally my story. Like
that because
still tell that again.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah.
Because even one of those movies that I saw the preview for the horror films, like it was sort of like that, but it wasn't quite like inmates, but it's called like The Menu. And apparently, like people come to this island and they're like eating this, like, blah, blah, blah. I was saying, like, you come to the situation, but it's not what you think it is. And like, then they're all like, okay, we're all about to fucking get killed. But I know we've got some other, you're hosting right now, but I know we've got some other things to like talk about as well. But I
all
think
kinds of stuff.
Amazing. Like this is a pretty juicy show, man. I'm liking this.
Yeah. I think I was going to talk about The Terminal List because it's the Chris Pratt show on Amazon Prime, but I think I'm going to hold off. I really, really, really want Andy to tell me why it was great, and then I can tell him why I didn't think it was as great as he does, because that gives me joy. So I'll hold off on it.
Like so far, sounds like Andy thinks a lot of things are great. Like, what does he not like?
Thank you.
I don't know. He likes everything. He likes everything.
He loves everything, man.
Yeah, and there's a lot of questionable choices in his repertoire of films that he enjoys, and I disagree in so many cases. I don't
Transformers or something. Transformer. You guys are like, dude.
Yeah. I'm like,
so happy about it.
Yeah. He really enjoyed The Terminal List. I didn't hate it. I'll say that right now. I didn't hate it. I had some issues with it. He felt like it was really super twisty and turny, and I felt like I knew who the bad guy was at the very end, and I did. I was right from the second episode. I don't know if that makes it predictable or that makes it just like we talked about, like just like me thinking about who is where and the things that they, whatever. But I didn't hate it. And I actually, one thing that I will say about it, and I'll talk about it again when Andy's on, is that I didn't think I would like it, because for me, whenever Chris Pratt shows up on screen, whether it's intentional or not, I'm always waiting for him to be funny. Like I'm waiting for him to pop out that one liner, even in the middle of a dramatic moment, like whatever. And when I watched the trailer for it, it really felt like there was going to be a lot of those moments where, again, he wasn't necessarily supposed to be funny, but I was going to be waiting for him to be funny. And that makes it hard to watch for me. But that moment never came when I actually watched it. He did a good job. The character's a little bland, a little dry. But he did a good job with it. So I don't have that complaint about it. I will say that I fell asleep a lot in the first 2 episodes. Maybe because I was tired, but it may also be because it wasn't great. But yeah, I'll debate this one with Andy. I've got 2 shows that I just started. I literally just started Blackbird on Apple TV Plus. It stars Tehran, Edgerton. Ray Liotta is in it, so it's one of his last appearances. But basically, Tehran Edgerton is he's been running drugs for a while. So he's got a lot of money. This takes place in the late 90s. Been running drugs for a while. And gets caught. He gets thrown in jail. They throw the book at him. He gets like 10 years. And somebody comes to him and says, hey, if you want to shorten your sentence, we need somebody to go into this high security prison. I don't know if it's maximum security, but befriend this serial killer and find out where he's been burying the bodies, because we only have him for 2 and we think he's killed like 14. And so I'm only into the first episode, so he's literally hasn't even transferred yet. But it's good. Like the quality of the show, Apple TV has been making some really great television. And so it was pretty solid. And I'm excited to watch what comes next. But the one thing that I did take away from it is there's been a lot of rumors right now buzzing around about Tehran Edgerton playing Wolverine in the MCU, or at least he would like to. And physically looking at him in the show, he's pretty jacked already in this show. And we looked it up last week. I think he's like 5'9".
Yes, exactly.
So he's shorter, stockier. The only issue that I have, like, he would really have to work on his gruff, tough guy voice. He's got a maybe a couple years older Tom Holland voice. Like his voice isn't gruff and tough.
Yeah.
So they'd have to work on that. But you nail that, and I really do like. He could totally be Wolverine. I'd be okay with that. But that's all I've got on that one. Like I so far, it seems like I would recommend it, but I've got to get a little further to say for sure. But it's well made, at least. The only other thing that I've watched this week besides this guy that we'll talk about in a little bit, Thor, is called Maggie on Hulu, and it's a rom-com-y sitcom. Funny enough, the girl is relatively unknown. If you ever watched the Mindy Project, she was like the blonde. Yeah, she was the blonde kind of snotty one on the Mindy Project, and she's the lead. And so I've read a couple of reviews of it, and I kind of agree that it's a better, like, spiritual successor to How I Met Your Mother than How I Met Your Father, which I tried to watch, and that was not good. But this show, so the girl Maggie is the main character, and she is a psychic. She touches something and she sees some bit of the future, and she's a bit of a pessimist about her own life or whatever. And so in the very first episode, this dude shows up to a party. He's flirting with her hot and heavy, asks for a reading. She touches his hand. She sees his future, and it turns out she's in a bunch of his future. So she gets the impression that they're supposed to be together. And so now the rest of the show is kind of their interactions, but them not really being together. Her finding out that some of the things that she saw weren't about her and him, but about him and another girl, or her and another guy. And so it's that, it's that will they, won't they thing. And it's fun. It's fun. It's not great, but it does have that feeling. Somebody's telling a story to you, and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen. Like basically, when's she going to end up with this guy? Just like in How I Met Your Mother, it was like, when's he going to meet the mother? When are they going to get together? Whatever. And so it's fun. It's not perfect. I think it will probably get another season, and it's worth a watch if you like that kind of show. So I recommend it. It's on Hulu. It's fun. And so that is me other than Thor. So I'm going to let Andrew talk about the movie he watched.
So I, I walk around as I do New York City, and I see all these taxis drive by with those little tops with the advertisements on them, and this weird looking face that looks like something from Attack on Titan. And it's for a movie called Black Phone. So I finally decided to watch the film after I saw on my Facebook feed, as I do. Positive buzz. I knew nothing about the movie, and I left the movie very pleased that I saw it. I'll talk a little bit about it, but I also think that it's good to kind of go in not knowing much. But I will say more than obviously what I knew, because I want to tell you why it was good. First of all, Ethan Hawke, he has not played villain very much before. He did play a villain in the Marvel show Moon Knight. But in this movie, he's demented.
He's evil, right? Like he's
really evil. The film was directed by Scott Derrickson, who did a great job on Doctor Strange, the first one. And the film was adapted from a short story by Joe Hill, who happens to be the son of Stephen King. So I think that's also good. It takes place in the 70s, late 70s. So you've got that kind of like, again, I'm all about Stranger Things right now, but I swear to not talk about that on this show because I've been overkilling that lately. But so you've got that nostalgia, and anybody who's our age or even older for sure can kind of feel like you're actually there. And it stars these two, child actors, a brother and a sister, and there are these kidnappings going on in this town. And the sister apparently has this ability where she has dreams, and in her dreams she sees like glimpses and images of the kidnappings and of what happens to the people there. The father is a drunk, and he actually and apparently their mother, who died off screen like earlier, had the same power. And basically from there, some things happen, and some things happen. Ethan Hawke's involved, of course. I don't think it's a spoiler to say Ethan Hawke, of course, is the kidnapper. And he gets one of the kids. And then it's kind of like the film Split, where, someone's held, captive, and they have to kind of like navigate their situation. So it's a very claustrophobic film. The performances are amazing. Like it trips me out how, like, whether you're talking about Iman Vellani from Miss Marvel or the two child actors in this movie, like how can such a young soul like emote so well? Like, yo, and then I'm almost even worried for their like mental health. Like, yo, this is like some pretty intense shit you're going through right now on this screen, but you're selling it, by the end of the movie, it definitely is not like colored by numbers per se. Like there definitely are some twists, but there's also just some things that just impress you, and you're like kind of like, wow, that was cool. If you're a jump scare person, there are some jump scares. There's several times where I actually like said, holy shit, or like I said something audibly in the theater, like, or like, sat up or whatever. Is there some supernatural elements? Well, I did talk about the dreams, so I'll just say maybe. And apparently, I was just reading up on Wikipedia. After the movie was over, I was like, okay, a lot of these movies like are just good one shots. You don't need to do a sequel. Not everything has to be a sequel like Marvel or whatever, right? But I'm not gonna lie. It says right here, hold on, let me scroll down. In June 2022, Derrickson said Hill had pitched him a wonderful idea for a sequel that he would do if the first film was successful. This film was shot on a budget of 16 to 18 million. So far, it's made 82 million.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Successful. But when the movie was over, I was like, I kind of want a sequel, but if they don't do a sequel, I want to see those kids again because they're dope. Like they're really that good of actors. And Ethan Hawke, homie, I know you said like in interviews, I don't want to be known. He was actually nervous about this role. I don't want to be known as a bad guy. Dude, you're an amazing bad guy. Like, because you just like, there's something about when you're evil that is literally, it just makes your blood run cold. And again, he was evil in Moon Knight, okay? But in this movie, he's twisted, man.
So is this horror or thrill or like suspense?
Both. I would say it's both. I would say it's more suspense than horror though. So it's like, is there gore? Yeah, there's a little bit of gore, but it's mostly more like edge of your seat, like jump scare thriller shit. And it has heart again too. It has
black phone.
What's that?
What's the significance of the black phone?
Yes. What's significant about the black phone? I'm leaving that alone, dude. So
Okay.
because I was like, you ask great questions. Because I was like, oh, like the black phone does show up.
Okay.
Yeah, they show it in a trailer or two, like it's there,
cool.
but they don't tell you.
Well, yeah, the phone is crucial to the plot. So it's like, but I didn't say anything about it. So yeah, man, it's damn good. Another thing is apparently it's going to be on Peacock. It says 45 days after release. So
Nice. I have Peacock.
Here, it should be on there by August. So
I'm ready.
Highly recommended, man. And I'm glad that because Derrickson wasn't even going to be able to make this film if he had to make Doctor Strange 2. But apparently there's creative differences, so he had to piece out. He's actually the first director that I know of who pieced out of Marvel and actually made a good film. Like the other ones, and we'll get to that in a second, they made horrible films. So I'm like, you dummy, like why would you like not trust Feige? Like get with the program, make his fucking movie and keep it moving, right? No, Derrickson's like, I'm better than this. I'm gonna leave. And actually, Derrickson, you are. I think that this. Don't get me wrong. I love Doctor Strange, the first one. I think it's better than the second one actually. But this film is like it's cinema. You know what I'm saying? It's not like popcorn, big explosion type shit. It's like you sit there, you watch the movie, you have an experience, and you're like, it's a pretty good movie. So that's my take on the Black Phone. I hope you see it and give us your feedback on YouTube or Facebook or whatever once you see it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'll catch it on Peacock. I've talked about my issues with going to the theater where I live. They're just so goddamn far away. It's hard for me to go to the movies.
I want to say one more thing. So sorry. I also I was hungry. So like if I'm hungry while watching a movie, I'm a little impatient. So I actually am harder on it. Like when I saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I was starving. So I didn't enjoy the movie as much. Black Phone, I was hungry for the first, actually I was hungry for the whole fucking movie. But by the last third, I completely forgot about my hunger. Completely. And that's impressive. So because you could be a good movie, but also remember I'm hungry. But if I forget I'm hungry by the last third and I'm totally invested in how this fucking shit ends, yeah, okay, that's it. I'm done. I hope you get the praise out. I'm praising this damn movie and I'm so glad there's going to be a sequel. Watch the actors. They're amazing. Okay. Done.
All right. And then what did you think of the Boys finale? Because you watched that.
I did. Epic. There's I can talk a little spoilery. So Black Noir is like, he was like the Snake Eyes of the crew. And, you really feel for the dude because apparently, yeah, no, I don't want to spoil it. Anyway, you feel for the dude, you get his background information, and unfortunately, because he didn't tell Homelander something, Homelander does what I guess Superman does to the Joker at one point. I think you might be familiar with it. I can tell you that part. He legitimately, because Homelander is like evil Zach Morris Superman. So he's like Superman. He literally like takes his hand and like, into his guts, rips his guts out. And it's just like, you should have told me, and then like, he's dead, and poor Noir, dude, like, why'd you kill him, dude? But whatever. And then there's an epic fight between Homelander and Soldier Boy, who is like evil Captain America, and like Starlight. And then there's like Queen Maeve, who was like their version of Wonder Woman. Like, yo, I'm mad that the Boys is only 8 episodes, because now we got to wait a whole another year and a half. Like, this is bullshit. But if you haven't watched The Boys, watch it. All 3 seasons are strong. And as I said before, if you're not a superhero person, you probably will like The Boys anyway, because it's like they're making fun of superheroes in a way, because they're calling them all assholes, and they're real people. They just happen to have powers, and they're dicks. And a lot of allegorical stuff going on, a lot of gore, a lot of humor, and good production values. And the daughter of Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan is like one of the stars. And yeah, have you heard of The Boys? Have you seen The Boys, Kim?
I've seen the first episode. So I'm just
Nice.
I was like, okay, I'm into it. I like it.
Good. You're in for a ride. Strap in.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure.
And because you haven't seen anything else, everything I just said, you'll probably forget. So
Yeah.
that's perfect.
That's true. Yeah, because you can't really
Contextualize.
associate the names. Yeah, so that'll help. So to help us lighten the mood a little bit, Kim, you watched The New Father of the Bride.
I did.
So
I'm almost done with it. I haven't watched the whole thing.
yeah,
I thought I would hate it, and I turned it on, and the first 5 minutes I thought, oh, this is like, they're gonna push really hard. Like, everything is just Latin focused. Like, see, we're doing The Father of the Bride, but now we just have different characters. And it wasn't that at all. I loved that they had like a wide variety of, I don't know, types of, it wasn't the same, it was kind of the same trope, but it was just a different spin on everything. I was saying earlier, like, I was glad the Martin Short over the top character wasn't there, but they replaced it with, oh gosh, and I think it's Chloe Fiennes, maybe, is that her name, from Saturday Night Live? Chloe something. And she's a wedding planner, and she's very like Gen Z, and she's kind of trying to be a wedding planner for Andy Garcia, who's super old school Cuban guy who looks super hot. Just a side note. And
Sorry.
This is, what is it? Oh, Chloe Fineman. Yes. Yeah, she does a super good job. It's so I wasn't captivated by the movie. I was still kind of like doing other things, but just interested. And it was a little surprising just in the way that they kind of like took a spin on it, but without, it's a remake, but I don't know, it's going to be forgettable. But I was pleasantly surprised by how interesting it was. Instead of, just, oh, her daughter's young and she's getting married, the daughter comes home, says she proposes to this man who she loves. And at the same time, it was the same night her parents were going to announce, Andy Garcia and Gloria Estefan were going to announce that they were getting divorced. So you have the dynamic between the parents who are like, now we can't tell our kids we're getting divorced until after the marriage. And then the whole wedding fiasco stuff. So something kind of another background movie.
I think this is like the third. I think the Steve Martin was a remake of an original.
Yes.
I remember. Yeah. So
right.
maybe three's a charm. Maybe. Yeah. But you just said it was forgettable, so maybe not.
Okay. Something to put on while you're cooking or something. I don't know. It's all right.
All right. Yeah, I'm curious about it, and we're gonna get a review of it from Andy at some point too, and I'm sure it'll start with, "Oh, I love this movie."
Yeah,
because that's what he does. He loves movies so much.
He
Re
loves the Winnie the Pooh murder movie. Like I want to
that
hear
one will
more.
probably I don't want to probably scare him, the poor guy. Um, let's see. Have you watched Miss Marvel at all on Disney Plus?
No, I feel like I'm so behind on all the Marvel shows. Like, I don't know, do I need, this set to watch this set? Do I skip ahead and just watch the most current? I don't know.
What's the last thing you watched?
That might be embarrassing. I didn't watch Hawkeye. Like whatever
Okay.
was before that was the last thing I watched.
So Loki then.
Probably, yeah.
No, I've only seen some of Loki. It might be like,
And if it wasn't Loki, then okay. So I'll just go in order. So basically, you had WandaVision, then you had Captain and Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier rather, who became Captain.
okay, I've only seen WandaVision. That's where I stopped.
You saw? Wait. I mean, that's all good. So wait, WandaVision's the last thing you saw?
WandaVision's the last thing I saw.
But you know what? Okay, check this out. Personally, I think we talked about this. Like the way I would rank it, I would say actually Miss Marvel, WandaVision, and Hawkeye are the top three, I think. I think Falcon and Winter Soldiers, it's cool. Loki, it's cool, but yeah, I don't, and they're all pretty standalone. Oh, I forgot fucking Moon Knight. They're all pretty standalone, I think. You don't necessarily have to see one to understand the other as far as the Disney Plus shows go. Would you agree with that, Kev?
Yeah, I think so.
So
I'm trying to. Wanda is now less of a standalone because of
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Good point.
Captain America 4 is in production, so
Yep.
That one's less of a standalone. Everything else, I would say, so far is kind of standalone.
I haven't been super drawn to them because each one feels like, well, here's a peek into this universe of this character, but it's not really advancing a lot of the story.
The main narrative.
I'd be wrong. Yeah, that's what I care about is the main narrative. There hasn't been like if there was a Doctor Strange or an Ant-Man, because those are my two favorite little spinoff, I would watch those.
Well, Doctor Strange just did come out. The Multiverse of Madness.
Mhm.
That one came out like I want to say in was it
a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But
it was okay, I think, personally.
I was excited to see it, and then everyone's like, nah.
You heard about that? Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. I think it was, we're going to talk about Thor in a minute, but I think it was a very Sam Raimi film. And I think that's one of the unique things about this phase of Marvel so far is that things feel a little different. Like my non-spoiler review of Thor, my very short one-liner was, it's the most Taika Waititi Marvel movie you'll ever see. It is incredibly Taika. It's just, if you understand him as a director and things that he makes, that's what this film is. And this Doctor Strange was Sam Raimi. It was totally Sam Raimi. And so I feel like directors in this phase are getting to be a little crazier and a little out there. I'm curious to see what happens in Guardians. And
yeah, then it's funny you say that, because as I was watching, and you guys talked about, I mean, not you guys, I talked about how I'm a bit of a control freak. Oh, by the way, so Kevin Feige is an example of that 0.1% I was talking about, right? Because he definitely is a good dictator. He's the one person who makes sure that Marvel Studios is the shit. But when you've got so many things happening at one time, you can only spread yourself so thin. So I feel like the quality control, in my opinion, is not there, because it can't be, because he can't be everywhere at the same time. Not like back in between 2008 and 2019, because there was less shit going on, maybe 3 movies a year. Now you've got 3 movies a year plus 4 or 5 shows. So yeah, I think it's beautiful again that my personality's coming out. It's beautiful that the directors are getting to have their vision, whatever. But if the vision's a little too divergent, I think from the main thing, then I feel like something gets a little lost there. So yeah, I was legitimately thinking that during the movie, as in Thor. I liked it, I did. But I just felt like you know, I don't know, like I don't feel the same cohesion, I guess, that I felt during the Infinity Saga. But I'm patient. I'm patient. They're still setting everything up. I still see this movie as kind of a connector. I see it as like ending kind of one kind of story and beginning another. So it was a bridge. And bridges don't necessarily always have to be like the best movie. But anyway, that was a bit
Well,
of a
since we're on it, I mean, let's just talk about. We can talk about Marvel, Miss Marvel afterwards.
cool.
I
Let's do
mean,
it. Let's do it.
If that's what we're on. So, I think you said it, and I think I agree that it is like upper middle tier of Marvel. I think Ragnarok is still the better Thor film. I think universally that has kind of been the review, that Ragnarok is the better Thor film. It's funny, I saw a poll that actually just says, what's your second favorite Marvel film or second favorite Thor film? Right. It had all four of them listed because they're like, of course your favorite's Ragnarok, right? Like,
Yeah.
how it is.
I didn't even bother.
Like the musical moment where I mean, there was one Thor where I like was texting Andrew right away. I'm like, dude, it just got so good. Is that the one where it's like,
Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, that would be what is it? The
Immigrant Song.
there you go, Immigrant Song.
Zeppelin.
Yeah. This one is a fucking Guns N' Roses rock video, number one, which
Yeah.
I personally love. Like I was sitting there and my son's sitting next to me, and every time one come, I just look at him and start singing along, like, and embarrass the shit out of him because he's just like, fucking please stop. And I'm like, no, I will not. Because I huge Guns N' Roses fan back in high school. And so like they get Sweet Child of Mine at the end, perfect. They dropped November Rain in the middle
Correct.
of the
I was surprised by that.
musicals, but they dropped it in the middle, right? So they don't start with the just starts with the jam, and
Yeah.
it's good stuff. Good stuff. But you look like you didn't love it. The GNR.
Yeah. No, I it's funny because like I love, dude, Appetite is like a fucking amazing. I keep cursing. Anyway, Appetite is an amazing album. Like I love that album. It's like there's not a bad song on there. Okay. But for some reason, it just felt a little forced, you know, like because there's so much like there was Guns N' Roses like t-shirts everywhere, and I was like, what's going on here? Like I like things when they feel organic and not forced. Like we had Immigrant Song, okay, but it wasn't like the Led Zeppelin show for Ragnarok, right? So
Right.
to have a GNR just run this whole situation, it's like, okay, this is an example of like, okay, Taika, like I'm just gonna go full on Taika, balls to the walls, just do whatever I want. Whereas I think, you know, if I was like Feige, because now you guys are knowing it, I would love to be a fucking film producer because that's what I fucking do. Like I'd be like, okay, I get it. You're creative, you have this vision, but let's reel it back a little bit. Like let's calm down. Like let's have maybe one, maybe two GNR songs, but not the whole thing. And please don't. And then even have like Heimdall's kid named Axel. Like, come on, dude. Like, so I felt like it was a little too much of. It was too much. Yeah, that's what I'll say. Let me start with what I liked. Oh my God. Okay, I'll tell you what I liked. So what I liked, actually, I wasn't expecting to like Jane Foster as much as I did. And I'll tell you why. Because I know the backstory.
It's so funny.
So apparently, Thor: The Dark World, the second one, what's her name? Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct that movie. And it was Natalie Portman's idea to get Patty involved. But apparently things didn't work out. And I'm glad because Patty made fucking Wonder Woman 84, which is one of the worst films of all time. Actually ruined my Christmas. Anyway,
horrendous.
It was terrible. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but apparently Natalie took it personally that Patty wasn't working on that movie. So that's why she was like, peace out. Fuck you, Marvel. I don't like non-team players, especially when you're working with Feige. So like, because I am a, you know, you guys, you learn, Feige is a god to me. And I think that he totally
and this was before the MCU was the MCU. Even Thor 2 was pretty early on.
It's 2013, correct.
Yeah.
But I still feel like it, but you just did Avengers. Like no one has done 3 movies and then done a team up that actually kicked ass. At that point, you still need to fucking respect him, dude, but you did. So you fucking walked away refused to do the reshoots. So I'm like, I don't like you, Natalie. So you're coming back just because they're giving you a hammer? Like you're like a baby. Like, okay, you can have the hammer now, Natalie. So you can come back. And so I was expecting to like her, okay? But I didn't just like her, I loved her. Like her in this movie was perfect. Nothing felt forced. I felt like if I was Thor, I'd love her too. Like I would be hung up over her. She's the shit. And as Mighty Thor, like when she has a hammer and she's fighting, yo, sold. Like she actually kicked ass. Okay. So
That's so funny. I gotta say, I don't
oh
want to interrupt you, but I gotta say, so
okay,
my least favorite part of the movie.
what?
I think
What, her or the fighting?
Her. Natalie Portman, I love. Now, Natalie Portman, I have had a crush on since The Professional. So we're going back to like when she and I were like teenagers, right?
Okay,
like
that's fair. Okay, you're both
right.
that's
So
fair.
I have loved Natalie Portman forever. Um, it felt like to me the same problem that Captain Marvel had, where they wrote dialogue that wasn't fit to the actor playing it. She's not funny. She's not good at comedy. And so the lines that she had were funny, did not work for me.
Interesting.
All of that comedy stuff that she had, just the action scenes, great. Actually, yes. I thought she was fine. But again, you know, it's the same thing I have with Batman, right? It's somebody in a costume doing all the action. A lot of times you don't see their face, you know, whatever.
It's not really that bad.
And the character was fine. I just think she didn't stick the landing on the stuff that was supposed to be funny. And it really came out kind of wooden for me. And that's saying something because I love her. But I didn't feel it. Like I get standing in front of Natalie Portman and being like, I love you. Because that's like a woman standing in front of Chris Hemsworth and being like, Chris,
right,
I love you. Because I would stand in front of Chris Hemsworth and be like, Chris, I love you. You know, if he's gonna make me make out with him, I guess I have to, right? Like Chris Hemsworth is a dreamboat. But like, yeah, she was the one thing to do. Like Tessa Thompson for me, far better than Natalie Portman in this movie. And I mean, I love Tessa Thompson too. Tessa's a 10, but you know, like she's just better. She's sassier. She's better with the attitude. The lines that she had, just they all worked better. Like everything about her worked better.
All right. So in Natalie's defense, which is awesome, is she's a fucking like astrophysicist or whatever. Like she's not going to be like a naturally comedic person. So I actually thought that the awkwardness was a little, you know, I believed it. And I will say by the end of the movie, like, yeah, I felt something, you know, and I think the last time I felt something that was like, that I was moved, of course, was in the second Thor when, you know, his mom, that was rough, right? Yeah. But this one, it was moving and beautiful. And also like, it was a good, like, I just felt like you got closure. Oh, also, by the way, in Endgame, when you go back and Natalie, like the rocket raccoon goes and gets like the blood, the ether from her blood. Yo, apparently that was just leftover footage.
Yep.
From Thor 2, dude.
Because at that point they still didn't think they were going to get her back. Yeah,
correct. So she was still mad at them. So you know, so maybe that's what it was. Maybe the reason why I liked her more than you did was because I went into the movie like, fuck Natalie Portman, she's not a team player, you know? So the fact that she actually, like, I thought did a good job and wasn't, you know, and seemed invested in the character and in the role, I was impressed. Is it a spoiler to say a certain person isn't in the movie or not?
Not for me.
Okay, so I think where the movie suffered, frankly, was no Loki. I think that Loki is the reason that the Thor movies are what they are. I mean, because I think Thor himself is like, he's cool, you know, and he's dumb and funny and shit. But I think that playing the dynamic between those two, especially during Ragnarok, was what really made the movie great. And then of course you had like, you know, everybody else, like Hulk and everybody, but like Loki is just such a force. So I think with him gone, you had to kind of have Korg, you know, Valkyrie, and of course Jane, like kind of fill the void. But I still felt like there was a bit of a void there. So that's the one thing I'll say that made this film different than Ragnarok. No Loki, and I think that, you know, it's kind of like they say a hero is only as good as their villain, whatever. And I'm not saying Loki's a villain per se, but you know, Loki was the guy that Thor played off of, and I think that was, they did a good job. But I personally, I never thought about it that way. But if I was them making the movie, I would feel like, damn, like, no, there's no Loki here. Can we do this?
Was there a reason why he wasn't in it? Like,
Loki's dead. As far as like that continuity, like Thanos killed him. He's gone. He's dead.
Yeah.
There's no coming back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But as far as villains go, Christian Bale over here, this guy, I thought he was friggin' awesome. I thought he was fantastic. The scene where he is sitting there and telling the kids a story was just creepy as all shit. Like he was good for a dude that, you know, I know he was Batman, but generally speaking, he's not built like an action star. And if you look at Christian Bale,
whoa, sorry, I got to slow you there. What about the Dragon movie, dude?
Yeah, the one that nobody saw.
It was amazing.
Rain of Fire, but nobody watched Rain of Fire. Man, I know which one you're talking about. Nobody watched Rain of Fire. But he is tall and lean, and if you're going to stand next to Chris Hemsworth, who is
a mountain
built, okay, he's built like a superhero or like a god.
This is the biggest he's ever been.
But yes, because he is doing the Hulk Hogan movie.
Oh.
He's playing Hulk Hogan. He got huge to play Hulk Hogan. But one of my favorite things actually was Russell Crowe's performance in this.
Oh my God, Russell was hilarious.
He was brilliant. He was so funny.
Yes,
and like his Greek god was magic. Like it was so good.
Here he needed something.
Yeah, he was great because they don't bother. Like Chris Hemsworth looks like what you think a god looks like, right? Like he is chiseled, he is cut. At one point you see his ass, like the dude's jacked everywhere. The guy is all muscle. And like, yeah, and then that's what you think. Yeah.
That was funny.
And when you think of like
back on, they're all like, oh.
They're like, oh, sad. And Russell Crowe is not that. Like Russell Crowe is the big fat jolly. He's like fucking Jupiter, you know, like he's the big fat jolly god, right? And he plays it so well. It was so great.
Yeah.
But Christian Bale played such an amazing, like just creepy son of a bitch. Like that dude lives in people's nightmares. Like that, I can see kids going to this movie and being a little scared. Yeah. Like there's things about this movie, especially because specifically he's like victimizing kids throughout the movie, right? Like kidnaps the kids, terrorizes the kids, like all this stuff. Like my kids are old enough now, you know, 11, 13, and 14, where I'm like, they're not going to be afraid of this. They're not going to go home and have nightmares. But like 7 or 8 year old would be like, I don't like that guy, you know?
For me, it was like, you know, I'm not cool with anything that can teleport into my room, right? So like Sesame Street, when those when those things were like and they go from outside the window to inside. As a 4-year-old, I'm like, I would turn off the TV because I'd be like, yo, it might come out this TV and like chase like out. So the fact that like Gore's things could like go into their bedroom,
come out of the shadows,
them, that would fuck me up as a kid. So I agree with you. I will say though, I like Christian Bale. Like I saw him in American Psycho. I think even before Batman Begins. So I've been a fan of him. I even saw him in Terminator Salvation. I thought he was good in that too. Even though it was like not the best movie, but he was John Connor. So I will actually say I expected more. I did.
Really?
I did.
Now,
I wanted him to be a bit more menacing, and they were all saying, "Oh, he's gonna be the best villain since Thanos," and I'm like, "Yo, I think Hela was better than him. Sorry, like I
that's
think Hela was
fair.
better, you know. So I expected more. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not, but I think that he's a heavyweight, and I thought it was a big deal that a guy who helmed the best DC films, you know, as far as trilogy goes, ever made, I expected more. But you're right. He was creepy as fuck. And he definitely, I think, was a worthy match for Thor's godlike powers.
I thought it was interesting too. I'd be curious to see. Marvel has historically not done this, but if they do a director's cut, supposedly there's a bunch of footage that was really like almost disturbing that they left on the cutting room floor.
Yes. Including his.
Yeah, a lot of it was his. And so I'm curious to see what that footage is. Like maybe we'll get it in at least the extras,
I'm so mad. Okay, that makes sense because Taika was also pissing me off a little bit because like I think his performance in Free Guy is like coloring my perception of Taika because he's a dick and Free Guy. So now I think Taika's a bit of a dick. Anyway, he said two things that pissed me off. One thing he said it was bullshit that Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush is getting all this love because in Stranger Things. I'm like, man, fuck you. Like, but obviously in context, he was not being that serious, but the headline made me not like him. But here's the point of what I was going to say. He also said there's going to be no director's cut because if it's on the cutting room floor, it wasn't good enough to be in the movie. And I was just kind of like, well, that sucks. Like, really, dude? Apparently there's a 4-hour cut of this movie out there.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a lot out there. So to your point, Kevin, yes, I do think Marvel will probably just make like here's all deleted scenes. Thank you. You know, that's fine. But there will be no director's cut. And I don't know. I just think of him as a little.
The thing about it is that if that's his opinion, then that means what we got was the director's cut, right? Like that's the thing is you do film an excessive amount of footage,
right?
When you make a film, and then you choose which angles, which shots, which whatever you want to keep, and you do push the guys. Like, so one of the things that they cut out was this scream, I guess, that Christian Bale does at some point, and they said it was just the scariest fucking thing they've ever heard in their lives, and they're like, no thank you, right? They did like and so like I get if they didn't want to put it in the film, then that's not Taika as the director. We got his cut, and I think that's fair.
Do you think he really has final cut though? I
do. I think when you bring in
a Ragnarok,
as long as it's not ruining something that's coming up or stepping on something that's already happened, I think when you bring in a Taika Waititi, I think when you bring in a Russo brothers, you know, you're basically saying, do what you're going to do. Just don't shit on the other stuff and you're fine. It's like James Gunn. I think if you look at what he's done with the Guardians films, they're giving him a whole lot of latitude because those are pretty different.
But do you think, but when you compare Guardians to like, say, his DC work, like, I feel like the Guardian stuff still has a little bit more like structure. Like they're not.
For sure. If you watch Peacemaker is Guardians unhinged. Like that's exactly what but Peacemaker is more of Tim Gunn than the Guardians. James Gunn. Tim Gunn is Project Runway. Who I still love. I love Tim Gunn. But James Gunn, he actually is that guy. His movies are crazier.
Yeah.
He did Brightburn, which I know you said you loved. I was on the fence with Brightburn. I wanted to love it and I didn't. Like I bought it and then I watched it and I was like,
yeah, I wouldn't buy it, but I definitely like. Okay,
I like the concept.
That's another one. I like dark shit. So Kim, that's another one. If you ever watch it, like if it can go wrong, oh yeah, it'll go wrong. Yeah. Like it's
basically Evil Kid Superman is the movie. Yes. Like if Superman landed on Earth, a decent family takes him in, but he's actually just a psycho. Like that's Brightburn.
Oh, so good. I loved it. It was like The Omen, but no devil. Basically, it was like,
Yeah.
he was an evil fucking kid.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna spoil the ending, but like the ending was just like, whoa, they did that. Okay.
Yeah.
They did that.
And like Gunn did Slither, like his stuff is usually over the top. And so Guardians is so drawn in that I don't think they're telling him what to do, but I think they're telling him how to do what he does. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's interesting because I love Taika, but I felt like in this movie, he didn't know what to do with the Guardians the way that James Gunn does. They didn't belong in the film.
But you know who did know what to do with them, which is crazy to me? The fucking Russos, man. Like,
well, in their defense, James Gunn was there. They all worked together on those films. So to bring in all those characters, everybody that was responsible for those, so Taika worked with them for Thor, and James Gunn worked with them for the Guardians. And now that I don't know how much of it they wrote, but they were involved.
Okay, well that would make sense, but I mean, okay, I mean, I'm gonna live on this show take your word for it, because I didn't know that, but that makes sense because it was just so seamlessly done. Like I just felt like that's why I love Infinity War so much, because you blended all those separate franchises into one, and it worked. You know, like their entrance, like the whole theater. Like I know you saw it at home camp, but like when the dun, 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 like when they actually show up, like we all lost our shit. Like yes, like, and it was just like it was them, dude. It was fucking them, and it wasn't like anyway. Yeah, like what you were saying, I got excited. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's so yeah. I felt like the Guardians didn't quite work. Like they were so subservient almost to Thor that it just didn't quite land. Like they were getting their asses kicked, and then they're like, "We need your help." And he comes in and whatever, and it's hilarious, but like they've been badass in their own right. So for them to kind of get second tiered there was kind of.
But that's the thing, though, right? I was also thinking about it, like Thor and Valkyrie and Mighty Thor, they're basically gods, right? And it's consistent, right? Because even in Infinity War, right, they're getting their asses kicked at Wakanda until Thor shows up. So it's like the Guardians, like I love how every Marvel project, the beauty of Marvel is you can have the street level shit. Like there's no way Miss Marvel could take on Gore. Like what?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It'd be a rap, you know? So it's like, no, I think it just showed the scale of the cosmic storytelling of, you know, the Thor world versus the Guardians. The Guardians is like the street level cosmic shit, right? Street level cosmic. That's what I would call it. Whereas Thor and everything else is like, okay, we're god level cosmic, you know? And Eternals, yeah, I'd love to see the Eternals fight like Thor type shit, like because they're like next level too. So what was I gonna say? I remember now. Thank you guys. All right, I'm excited. Is that like I was thinking about people getting canceled or falling out from Marvel, because I was thinking about this with Natalie Portman. Yo, it was 6 years between Doctor Strange 2016 to like 2022 Multiverse of Madness. It's damn near going to be 10 years between Guardians 2 and Guardians 3. I think Guardians 3 comes out like either in 2023 or 2024, maybe. But like I think maybe 2023. But either way, that's 8 years after the first one, I want to say. Yeah, that's a long time to wait between Guardians films. And 2, I think, was a bit underrated. I didn't like it at first. Like I thought it was kind of lame. But now, especially when they use that song, The Chain, I'm totally tangenting. The Chain by Fleetwood Mac, that whole moment, like when Ego is exploding or whatever, beautiful. So anyway, 8 years, glad to see the Guardians back. Yes, they didn't really fit in, but it was glad to see them back. And I'm glad that James Gunn is back so we can go and give them the send off that they deserve.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny. I actually think that James Gunn is for I enjoyed the whole GNR concert that we saw. Like I was down with that. But James Gunn is better at weaving a soundtrack into his film.
Yes.
Like he's with the Guardians.
Yes.
Than even Taika was. Like
yes.
And maybe it's because of variety.
Oh my God.
Sorry. But like his stuff really lands. Like his stuff is good. And for me, every GNR song that they used worked.
Yeah, thematically.
But I do think James Gunn is better at it.
I think Thor Ragnarok, frankly, was a James Gunn imitation in a lot of ways, because like it was James Gunn imitation with Taika's thing. But right after Ragnarok happened, I was like, oh, now we know who can take over. But Taika was like, I know James, he's my friend, I would never do that to him, and that was fine. But like, even the Grandmaster versus the Collector, like I felt like Grandmaster was like, Taika's version of James Gunn's Collector. Like I just felt like this because the Guardians films were the first wacky Marvel films, right? And so basically all we knew about wacky Marvel was Guardians. So the first Thor movie was basically like the closest thing to a romance movie, right? The second one was more like just, I don't know what that was, but it was just what it was, right? It was like Game of Thrones Marvel, right? And then the third one, no one knew what to expect. So when you get in there and it opens up with him hanging upside down, like in chains, and he starts doing, like, what? And then like, yeah. And then like Jeff Goldblum shows up and like, so yeah, it was that's what I'm saying. It was a James Gunn aping. I forgot imitation. All right, I'm done. Keep going. Sorry.
So let's go. Like I think it's funny that we take different paths to get there, but we feel the same way about the film, like in general, like where it sits. It's better than Captain Marvel. It's actually funny. Like I say upper middle tier right now, but it's very possible if I put these films on a list,
it could.
Then maybe it wouldn't be. Like the MCU is one of those crazy things where when you sit down and you write up a list of the films that you love, and you start moving them around, you really start to realize, maybe I actually like this thing better than this thing and whatever. I mean, you're always going to have the Hulk at the bottom. Thor Dark World is always going to be near the bottom. Like there's some movies that you just know are going to be down there. I'm actually curious. Like I really feel like maybe when phase 4 is done, it's time to sit down, write up the list and start organizing and just see where I land. Cause I still know nothing for me has unseated Endgame, which is so closely followed by Infinity War. And I think you're the opposite. I think you put Infinity War over Endgame, and that's totally fair. I think they're both amazing. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to do. We did it once on the show a long time ago, and it should probably be done again soon because it changes so much.
And a lot has happened since you probably have done it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm getting a little worried. I think right now the TV shows are stronger than the films. Which could be a good segue into Mrs. Marvel. But before we get into that, though, I also want to just make sure that, Kim, if there's anything you wanted to say about any of what we said, or because I know you're going to be seeing it in 4D, but like it could be about Thor, it could be about just any of the Marvel films. Like, just I want to make sure that
No, I don't think I have a lot to add to it, other than I'm on team Infinity War and then Endgame. That's pretty much all that I can add. But I'm excited to see. I've never seen a movie in 4D, and my kids are super pumped, and I don't know what it's going to mean. I'm expected to be really scared by Christian Bale in 3D glasses. So.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, he's legit creepy. He is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm actually excited for anybody to see Russell Crowe in that too. It's not a huge part. It's not huge. But man, he steals that scene. He is great.
He needs some
Yeah,
forgiveness
so-
after singing in Les Mis. That's the last thing I saw him in. So
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
also good.
I didn't see that.
That was rough. I don't think you need to.
No, I'm not missing out on anything.
No, you know what? Go find the what is the 10th anniversary of the Broadway show that they did live, and just watch that. Get the real people in there.
I like Anne Hathaway though. Is she any good?
She was all right. She was all right. She's all right. I
I
like
love
Anne Hathaway too, but
was to me, he like that's his name, right? Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yes.
yeah,
There's something like there's something so captivating about that guy, and it's so confusing.
it's true.
Why, but
It's true. Yeah, because he's not particularly handsome, right? Like he's not. But he's a good actor. He's a really good actor.
I've only
yeah,
seen him in
he's
those Harry Potter prequels. He seems good in that.
he was really good in the Stephen Hawking one.
Okay.
Forget the name of it,
I know you're
but he
talking.
played Stephen Hawking. Yeah, he was great in that. So yeah, he's good. Like he's really good. So yeah.
Alright.
Well, then the last thing on my list for the week is Miss Marvel, which is it's a short. I think it's their shortest episode.
Yes, correct. Shortest
Um,
episode. Mhm.
This is our like weekly education show,
Oh my god.
Miss Marvel. Like if
Oh.
you haven't, Kim, if you haven't watched it, one of the most, at least I think in both of our opinions, one of the most cool things about it is that it is really teaching us about some history in Pakistan that I knew nothing about. And it's in the 40s. It's called the partition, and it's when Pakistan and India were separating, right? And Great Britain was kind of exiting India and everything that came along with that. And so it's been super educational, like and it's been really interesting to see this this side of culture that we don't see on TV in most cases.
Ever.
Like this is a very, like the entire cast is, other than Bruno, is, you know, Indian, Pakistani, or somewhere in that vicinity. And the family, like I love that family. I think they're the best part of the show. You know, the superhero bit of it, up until some parts of this episode and the last one, were almost ancillary. Like they're really great, and it's great to see she can be a superhero. But it's all about like this kid, and I still adore her. I think she's fantastic.
Yep.
But she was barely in this one. Like this one was a little more of a history lesson. And that woman, okay, that woman's beautiful.
Yes.
Like that, I was like, she's stunning. But it was another cool story. I'm really curious because we only have one episode left. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah. You know, so I think we both agreed, like, I would say episodes 1 to 3, all strong. Episode 4 was probably the weakest, you know, and it was also just a lot of action, but you didn't really feel that invested in it. And to your point, it was almost like, how can she fight so well? Like now she's like doing crazy shit. And then this episode was more of like a, you know, you're seeing her grandmother and grandfather like meet, and it was just kind of getting that whole backstory. And then you fast forward to like now, and then, you know, she's closing some sort of weird portal. But yeah, I have a feeling that Kevin Feige, again, I think is actually very hands-on with this show. I feel like his attention was put on this one, and I feel there's a very focused, meticulous, like storytelling happening, where it's not going too much this way or that way. It's like this show knows what it's doing, except for, again, episode 4 was a little weird. And again, I also felt like, even with with Love and Thunder, I was like, I think I've seen this before. Like it feels a bit formulaic, right? Whereas nothing about Miss Marvel feels that formulaic at all, because it's so different and so undone. Like even with like you were saying with Father of the Bride, or even on some level, even Shang-Chi, it's almost like it's one thing to do something cultural, but then it's like you're only doing it superficially. Like it's like you're putting like a cultural, cloth over the couch, but it's still a couch. But like, no, this is not just like a superficial like lens. This is deep in the DNA of the show. It's authentically from the food, from the storytelling, from the sets, even shooting in Karachi. Like, and again, so many people did not know what the hell partition was. I didn't know there used to be one in India. I didn't know that I'd heard the religions, but I didn't know there was Sikh, Hindu, and Muslim. And apparently the Muslims were like considered outcast. There was like riots. So basically the Muslims had to flee India and then basically become Pakistan. I didn't know any of that shit. And this is a big deal. And lots of people died. Lots of people, like, families were split up. So, I think, and we talked about it on the last show, edutainment, I think it's great to be educated while being entertained. But it's not being done in a way that's like, oh, you must know this, or you're dumb for not knowing this. It's like, no, this is just who we are. And this is what happened. But it's still cool because you get to it's all connected to, like, the MCU. You probably haven't seen the Eternals or Shang-Chi, but basically there's a lot of like objects that are imbued with power, I think, happening in this phase. And clearly her what do they call it? A cufflink? What is it called? Bangle.
I think they just call it bang. Yeah.
The bangle. Her bangle is what unlocks her powers, because apparently she is a jinn, which is like some sort of like being that has like mystical powers. But this last episode was good. I now care about Aisha. I want Bruno shows up at the end. They go back to New York, and it's getting cool again because Bruno. Okay, here's the thing about Miss Marvel, Kamala. Kamala is cool as fuck. She's cute, and every boy in this show who meets her is like, ugh. So basically, like, she has 3 dudes who are all like fawning over her, right? One's over in fucking Pakistan. The other 2 are like in New Jersey, and like Bruno definitely doesn't like. Is it come on or whatever? Anyway,
yeah,
Bruno doesn't like the dude, but dude is now stranded.
Cameron.
Yeah. So Bruno's like Cameron because she was all about Cameron, and Bruno was like all about her. Anyway, but now they're forced to be kind of friends because like Bruno's a nice dude, right? And he has nowhere to live. But it ends with like a cliffhanger because some shit's going down, and like boom, explosion, boom, assholes. Next episode. So anyway, the fact that we can talk about this so passionately means that I think they're doing something right. Has the show alienated people? Yeah, it sounds like it has. I also think there's a lot of competition, frankly. I think that this show dropped right when my favorite show of 2022, Stranger Things, dropped, but then you've also got like, what else is going on right now? The Boys. So between The Boys and Stranger Things, Miss Marvel got, and
Kenobi was on at the same time.
Exactly. Kenobi. Yeah. So it had a lot of competition. So it's going to be a slow burn, but it was a good episode. It was return to form. So what I was saying ultimately was I'm a little worried about the movies. I'm not going to lie. And this is my first time admitting it. I'm a little worried because I wanted more from Love and Thunder. It was good, but I wanted more. I wanted more from Doctor Strange, but it was good. So, the last great Marvel film was probably Spider-Man No Way Home, I think. Because even Eternals was like, I know you like Eternals, but
I liked Eternals a lot.
Yeah, but and then what was before that? Oh yeah, Black Widow. Like it was good.
I liked Black Widow. The problem with Black Widow is it was completely the wrong time to release that movie, and it had the issue of
streaming versus
getting hit with COVID, and then it was streaming. Yeah, it had tons of not production issues necessarily, just timing issues. And I wish that it had been a regular Black Widow movie 6 years ago. Before Endgame, before all that.
It would have made more sense too because it was of the timing.
Yeah, it's hard to make a movie about her when she's already dead. That's the biggest issue that I had with it. But I enjoyed that movie a lot, actually, for what it was.
Aw. Well, How long have we been going now? Has it been 2 hours?
It's been about 2 hours. I think we're at our usual stopping point. The one more Marvel thing that I will say is that I saw today that Marvel is prepared to blow up Comic-Con in 2 weeks with a bunch of Black Panther 2 shit. So Comic-Con is the 25th, I believe, is when it starts. 21st, 25th, something like that. And they are supposedly bringing the Black Panther.
Where is it at?
So,
well, San Diego always, right?
So I said,
yeah, it's San Diego Comic-Con. Black Panther is the next Marvel movie, I believe, in November. So I'm super stoked for that. I'm heartbroken by it every time I think about it because Chadwick Boseman was perfect. Like, he was so good. And so they've got it, number one, he passed away before they filmed a single frame. So, they don't have anything to use of him to make it. They have said that they're not going to do CGI. They're not going to cheese it up. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I'm excited for it. It's still Chris Coogler, right? That's directing
Ryan Coogler.
Coogler.
But yeah, I was just about to say, I do trust Ryan. I have not seen anything. Like, I like the Creed movies. Although the second one wasn't him directing. I think he only wrote it or something, but like, he's a talented dude. But I do think, though, honestly, yeah, I can't say I'm not worried, because I think they have a high bar, because that first fucking movie was it felt so, yeah, like it felt different. It didn't feel like any other Marvel film before it, and I think that's what made it special. And in between that and all the press around Shuri like having difficulties with the production, and that
was COVID stuff. That was such a mess anyways. I don't know.
We'll see. I hope my worry is unfounded.
I have seen that they're introducing Namor, but they're also supposed to be introducing Riri Williams, who is Ironheart. So she's the young teenage.
Oh yes, in Chicago. Yes.
Black girl who plays Iron Man. And so I don't know.
So how was your first all pop, no culture podcast? Missing two of the fellows, by the way. But yeah.
So you got the quality this time. That's good.
What was that?
So I feel like there was a little bit of culture in there, a little sprinkle. Pop and
yeah.
It was super fun.
Hair.
Your energy is great, like bouncing off. Yeah.
That's good. We'll have to fire Pete and Andy and bring you on full time. We'll work up the paperwork. I don't like either of those two anyways. Actually, Andy did say that he I think the deal was his daughter's boyfriend was over, so he had to deal with that and be a dad, and they finally just left, and that was 20 minutes ago. So
oh wow,
I get that. So yeah, dad comes first, I guess. That's fine. Being a dad is no small feat. I've done it for a very long time, so I appreciate the job. But yeah, we definitely unless you stop speaking to us, which is totally feasible. We'll definitely have to have you on again.
I would love to.
Yeah, and go from there. It's good to have a female voice on here. It's not our usual thing. So it's good to, Andrew and I talked about a couple weeks ago, just how the way the show has changed over the last few years. It's been a very, organic shift into different things. So if we can bring you on more often, and then it'd be fun to do. I think it's good for us to have somebody new and smarter than Pete and Andy. That's for sure.
I don't know, that like savage text is pretty clever.
No, fuck him. Don't give him any credit. He deserves no credit. And I hope he gets crabs. Again. Yeah.
Oh, see? There you go. That's what I was talking about.
Just for like the 15th time, probably. No, I can't say that, because probably the only person that would sleep with him is Christy, and I don't want her to be
Implicated.
Yeah. I've met her. She's good people. She doesn't deserve that. So instead, I hope Pete's dingling falls off, and then she has to go find a real man. There we go. Fuck him.
Got dark real quick.
Yeah. Look, man, he really messed with me, man. He really messed with me, and I don't appreciate it. And so on that note, thank you to everybody who is watching or listening. I don't know why you would, but thank you. You're probably here for Kim. If you're not here for her, then you're here for Andrew. And way down at the bottom of the totem pole is me, so I appreciate it. Thank you for watching, listening, if Pete ever puts this up. And don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have anything for us, leave it in the notes, the comments. We're happy to hear it. Right now, that's only Leah. So Leah, we appreciate all of your words. And yeah, have a great week, and we'll see you next week with whoever decides to show up besides myself and hopefully Andrew. So we'll see you next week.
Do you guys have a scary rating, like for a rating system? I mean, like how scary?
We have failed at that on almost every. We're on. This is our 107th episode, and if you want something that seems consistent, or like we should have probably thought about that 100 episodes ago, you'd probably be right, but we don't have it. So.
Well, I only joined in I think episode 88 or 89, so I can't be blamed for that oversight. For the record.
Yeah, I've been here since the beginning, so it's me and Pete's fault. And now it can't even be Pete's fault because he doesn't even bother to show up.